And away.
All right, good morning, everybody. Today is probably the most fun block there is in Megillah, known as the Ein Bains. So we left off the top. So today is Daf Ches. Today's Daf Ches. But we left off, right, the first wide line, I think, of Zayin, number base. So Ein Bain Yosef. So we're going to try and go in Rabbi Resnick mode. I just listened to him for the first time. So he's, wow, okay.
Is he fast?
Yeah, he's like 18 minutes fast. Yep. So Ein Bein Yontif l'Shabbos elo eichel nefesh bilvad. So not regarding to many other halachas, as Rashi points out, but in terms of regarding what one is allowed to do, things that are eichel nefesh. Eichel nefesh li'amutzah l'chachila b'yom tov, right? Things to do mutzah l'chachila. Ma she'aser b'Shabbos. That's what Rashi was talking about. So Zak the Gemara, halin machshiri eichel nefesh. Oh, I didn't really explain it. So eichel nefesh bilvad. So items that are associated, right, with eichel nefesh, with eating, preparing food, right? So something which is equal to all, those things are permitted to do on Yontif, but on Shabbos there is no special heter to go ahead and do that. So Gemara halin machshiri eichel nefesh. However, when it comes to machshiri eichel nefesh, that was those preparations, the side parts of eichel nefesh, they had zevzeh shavin. Both of them are equal. In other words, both of them would prohibit it. Obviously, the Shabbos prohibits it, so Yontif also is prohibited, and therefore they're the same. So Masnisin Deloiki Rabbi Yehuda. Our mission is not like Rabbi Yehuda. Why? The title of the Brayso Ein Bein Yontif and the Shabbos elo eichel nefesh. There is no difference between Yontif and Shabbos except for eichel nefesh. And Rabbi Yehuda Matir Af Machshiri eichel nefesh. He says Machsh and Yontif not only eichel nefesh, not only food preparations, but even right the what's it called? The support of the eichel nefesh itself. Those items are also mutter to do on Yontif.
So
my time to Tanakama.
In Makshira Yofa,
sharpening the knife.
Yeah, right. Items, items, right, that are not directly food related, but are related to the food process.
Except you're allowed to sharpen the knife.
So my time to Tanakama. So what's the reason going to Tanakama? Amar Kra, the pasuk says who? It says who v'lo machshira. It says who v'lo machshira. Now only things that you food preparations. The cooking, the those items, those things you can do it, but not the other part of, let's say, preparing the flour or stuff like that. That would not be prepared. Hu v'lo machshira. Rabbi Yehuda says lachem l'chol tzarchechem. Right, for you, anything of your needs. So if your needs are even things that are machshirei eichel nefesh, even those that are secondary, right, to eichel nefesh, right, those things would be would be mutter. It says lachem, all sorts of preparations. So lachem, no different drasha. Lachem lo avdei kochavim. Lachem lo lekalavim. Only you can prepare food preparations for yourself, but not for goyim. For you, but not your animals, right? So that's how they darshan lachem. Only lachem for you, Jews. V'idach nami haksiv who? It says who, which sounds like it's excludes. So now who v'lo machshirei. So who ksiv. So who v'ksiv lachem. Haksiv who. So ksiv who v'ksiv lachem. Kam machshin shev shalos is a meir of Yontif. Kam machshin shev shalos is a meir of Yontif. In other words, according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says machshiri are mutter, there's only those things that you cannot have done before Yontif started. If it was something you could have done before, then you're not allowed to go ahead and do it on Shabbos. But if it's these preliminary preparations, right, that could not have been done for whatever reason from before Yontif, then those will be mutter to go ahead and to do them on Yontif itself. Fine. Now in Mishnah. Mishnah says, right, next we have 5 different Mishnahs. So, Ein Bein Shabbos liyom Kippurim, ela shezeh zedayna b'dei Adam v'zeh b'dei Kares. There is no difference between Shabbos and Yom Kippur when it comes to the Yisurim. Rather, this one is if you do it b'mezid b'dei Adam on Shabbos. If one is does something on Shabbos, he gets hasra, he can be put to death. B'dei Adam by Beis Din, v'zeh zedayna b'dei Kares. The other one does the b'mezid. He gets kares, right? There is no mises based in, right? So one gets kares and the other one gets misa b'dei. So hal in tashlumin zev zeshab. When it comes to tashlumin, if one goes ahead and violates a loisase and he does it at the same time where he, let's say, causes monetary damage to someone else, where he'd be chayiv to pay. So we have a pasuk, right? We learn out the concept of kinei b'derabimine. You get the more chashuv one. You only get one, right? You only get one punishment and not multiple punishments, right? It says v'lo ason onosh yanesh, right? When there is no ason, basically when you don't get another punishment, then you pay, right? But if you do get another punishment, such as if I kill somebody at the same time I tear his shirt, right? So I'm obligated to pay for the shirt, but since I'm a chayiv b'nafsho, I'm patur from payment. So it sounds like over here that when it comes to tashlumin, both Shabbos and Yom Kippur, it's the same halacha. In other words, even though one is kares, the other was Mises Basin, both of them are patur from tashlumin. So Mani Masnisen, who is our Mishnah like? Rabbi Nechunya ben Hikana, the Tanya Rabbi Nechunya ben Hikana haya oise es Yom Kippurim k'Shabbos. So he said Yom Kippur is just like Shabbos. The Tashlum, when it comes to payment, Ma Shabbos means chayiv b'nafsho, patur min Tashlum, and just like on Shabbos, one is obligated. In other words, if he does something which is chayiv misa at the same time, he causes monetary damage. He's patur from paying because he's chayiv b'nafsho. He's chayiv with the soul. Yom Kippurim. So to Yom Kippurim, if he does the same thing, he's chayiv b'nafsho patur min Tashlum. So to Yom Kippurim, if he does a violation, he's chayiv b'nafsho, right, with his kares, and he's patur from payment. Tanan Hasam, we learn over there, kol chayiv krisis shaloku niftaru b'dei krisasa. A person is chayiv kares, and he gets malchus. He's no longer gets kares. Basically, he's exempted himself from the kares. The kares punishment is no longer upon him. Shnei, as the pasuk says, "V'nikle achicha leinecha." So it says that you'll give lashes to your brother before you. Kevan shalaka harehu keachicha divrei Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel. So he says, once he gets malchus, now he's like your brother again. He's like your brother mitzvah. So now he's not a dead man walking. He's your achicha. So therefore, the malchus gets rid of the kares, right? So once you get malchus, you get kares. So this is the opinion of Rabbi Chananya ben Gamliel. And I'm Rabbi Yechanan. Chalukim alav chavera, Rabbi Chananya ben Gamliel. However, the others argue on Rabbi Chananya ben Gamliel. And where do we see that? So I'm a Rav. I'm a Rav. Say, look at our Mishnah. I was telling the yeshiva Rav. So Tanina ein ben Yom Kippur on the Shabbos Ela shezez zedara b'dei Adam v'zez zedara b'dei kares. There is no difference in Shabbos and Yom Kippur except one. The punishment is b'dei Adam, and Shabbos b'dei Adam b'chayv misas bezdin, and the other one, if you do b'meizid, you get kares. Now v'im isa, if it's taka true that instead of getting kares, I can replace kares with malchus. V'im isa, either b'dei Adam. Both of them are b'dei Adam. Both of them I just give malchus for. One is misas bezdin, the other one's malchus, but both of them are b'dei Adam, not b'dei Shemayim. So I'm Rav Nachman, Hamani, Rabbi Yitzchak. This is the opinion of Rabbi Yitzchak. The Amar Malchus b'chayvi krisis like actually that Malchus cannot go ahead and replace chayvi krisis. The time he was on a brisa. Rabbi Yitzchak Chaimer chayvi krisis b'chlal hoyu. It mentions over there by the different arise. It says they're all he kares would be cut off, and it's part of the rule. Alama yasas kares b'chayso. Why is this say specifically by the pasuk b'chayso? Do the kares b'lay b'malchus to teach you that you have to get kares and not malchus. Malchus is not a replacement. So you see, according to this opinion, Rabbi Yitzchak calls a malchus not a replacement. That could be the author of our Mishnah. And Rav Ashi Amar afilu tema rabbanan ze'ikr zedona b'dei adam ze'ikr zedona b'kares. Maybe what it means is that no, maybe the Mishnah agrees. But that which it says, our Mishnah, one is the Adam, one is B'dei Shemayim, is that the main punishment for Yom Kippur is kares. If you do get malchus, then it could replace it. But the main punishment is kares. So therefore, maybe that's what it means. The ikr zedona the Adam is ikr zedona be kares, and therefore maybe it could be all. Everyone agrees that malchus could go ahead and replace kares.
Next page.
Fine. Now Mishnah.
Turn
the page now. Today's daf. Ein bein hamoider hana mechavero lemoider mimeno meichel eladrisas haregel v'kilim sheina seba v'han oichel nefesh. There is no difference between one who is moider hana mechavero. He says, I will not get any hana from my friend at all, anything, to one who says, I will not get any food benefit from my friend. Right now, when it comes to food benefit, if there is something which is really tangible, and let's say he gives me money, right? So that is still violating that vow. Why? Because if he gives me money, I can go ahead and spend $5. I can't get a meal more for $5, but I can go ahead and buy some snacks, right? I can get oichel with him. So if someone makes a neder, right, not to get any food benefit from somebody, so he can't even take cash from the guy or something which has value. So what is it that he can do? What's the difference? So if I can't get, his food, right? Obviously, I can't get his money. So what is the difference between me making a nether of I will not get any hana at all from this person, or I'll not get any food benefits? So Ella drisas haregel, rather drisas regel, by taking a shortcut through his yard. Right, I'm going to take a shortcut through his yard. So if I will get no benefit from him. So then that's also. But if I just have no food benefit, then I'm allowed to go ahead and cut through his yard. The kelim she'noiseh ben oichel nefesh. Also, utensils that are not that you don't go ahead and do oichel nefesh. I was not even talking about things that are rented out, right? Not even items that are rented out, like a hacksaw, right? Those items, because if I'm paying for it, then I get the money in return, something I would have paid for. I can use that money to buy food. So rather, it means that things that people lend without any sort of value or charge.
So borrowing.
Right. So borrowing something which is not rented normally in a place where it's not rented, therefore that would be mutter in the case if I just vowed not to get any food benefit from somebody, because there is no monetary value I got by using that item. Because it's not like I saved money. Now, since I didn't rent it, I just borrowed it. I can go ahead and use that money. Well, you could have got it for free anyway. So the Gemara says, however, when it comes to utensils that do eichel nefesh, in other words, I want to buy your pot or borrow your pot or something like that, both of them would be asur. And drisas haregel, sahalo kapta yichi, right? The people are not makbid, people walking through. So even if I make mother I know, why should I be asur? Samarav hamani Rabbi Eliezer damar vitur asur b'mother hana, or even something which is normally just a thank you or something that owes someone, just a favor, even though it's not a monetary favor, something vitor which is extra, whatever it is, even that is us from someone who's mother hanas. Even cutting through is a type of benefit according to Rabbi Eliezer, and therefore if I make a hana, if I make a nether not to cut through someone's yard, therefore it's us. And ein bein nadarim ledavos elashon nadarim chai b'achriyosam and nadavos ein chai b'achriyosam. There is no difference between nadarim and nadavos. But so a neder and a dava. Rather, nedarim, one is chayiv b'achrayis, right? One is chayiv to go ahead and fulfill it. In other words, a neder, normally, as we'll soon see, is basically on a person, right? I will go ahead and bring this carbon, right? So in other words, and also I designate an animal for that carbon, the animal dies, I have to go ahead and replace it because I said I am going to bring a carbon. So I have to go ahead and replace it. However, nedava is in a chayiv b'achrayis, but a nedava is on an object. If I say, okay, this animal is going to be a carbon, and that animal dies, so I don't have to replace it because I only made it on this animal. I didn't obligate myself. I obligated this animal to be brought. That's the difference. But when it comes to Baal Tacher, we have a violation. A person can't go ahead and delay too long. Whereas Machlok is how long exactly that is, how many regalim, fine. But the point is, everything has a timeline, right? You have to go ahead and offer it. So I can't say, I'm going to go ahead and bring a carbon and bring it in 10 years, or this animal is going to bring a carbon and bring that in 10 years. Each one has both of them, Baal Tacher apply to both. And Tanan Hasman, there Ezu Neder. What is a Neder? Hare Alai Ola. A Neder is what the person says, I accept upon myself to bring an Ola. And therefore, there's a Chai B'achrayis, and therefore I have to go ahead and replace it, personal, right? And Ezi Nedava, what is it? Nedava, Ha'omer Hare Zula. This animal is an Ola, will be brought as an Ola. If in the case of Nadarim, where I accepted upon myself it dies or it was stolen or was lost, I have to go ahead and replace it. However, Nadavos, however, a Nadava, if it died, if it was stolen, or if it was lost, one is not obligated to go ahead and replace it to bring another one, because I only obligated the animal, and this animal is no longer there. And we know, honey, from the Tanur Rabbanim, so it says the pasuk over there, the nirtzalo, right, and it will be accepted for him. Nirtzalo lechaper, love to be bechaper for him, right? And Rabbi Shimon Omer, es she'olav chaper chayis, es she'eno olav eno chaper chayiso, right? That which is nirtzalo lechaper olav, right? So in other words, that which is on him, he's chaper chayiso. So if he says a lie, then he's chayiv to go ahead and replace it. But if he doesn't say a lie, eno chaper chayiso. My mashma, Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi came and Damer alai kamadatoyin akasi dami. Since he says a lie, it's like one is carrying a burden on his shoulder, and he has to go ahead and replace it if that animal gets lost.
It's personal responsibility.
It's right. He's obligating himself to do it. Exactly. Now your Mishnah. So the Mishnah says now comes to the meat and potatoes of the day. Ein bein zav haroyesh teirios leroyesh shloish elakarba. Now, a zav, a person who has a form of a seminal drip, right? So if he has two riyos, right? So if one says, if he's, the halach is one time he's just tummy for the day, mikvah 2 times, then he's now tummy for 7 days, right? That's the shomer shtei riyos. And 3 is he's tummy for 7 days, and also he has to bring a carbon at the end. So ein bein the zav haroyesh shtei riyos leroyesh shlosh ela carbon. Only difference is the carbon. In terms of tuma, with the amatami, with the namatami, that is all the same. The only difference is if he saw 3 days, right? 3 days in a row, then he's chayiv to go ahead and bring a carbon. 2 times he's part of the carbon, but still just as tough. So halli in mishkav Moshe, the svira shiva zev shavim. However, when it comes to mishkav Moshe, now if I go ahead and I sit, or the zav sits on a mattress, and there's 10 mattresses there, so each one. Now the special halacha also is by zav. He doesn't just make it a rishon because he's an avatuma. He actually makes those items an avatuma, right? So when it comes to mishkav Moshe and counting 7, they're both equal. So Menahdi Mili from everybody else from the Tan Rabbanan. So we're going to bring 2 sources. Rabbi Sabai Omer, Mana Kasav Shtaim, the Karotame, and Shalosh, the Karotame. There's 2 different psukim, right? 2 different psukim that are brought down. One pasuk is Ish ki zav mibsaro zovo tamehu. It says over the word Ish ki zav, right? 1 time, right? Zovo tamehu. The other pasuk that says 2 times and says he's tame. The other time says V'zoistia tumasa bezovo 1, right? Rabisar as zovo 2. Hechtim besaro mizovo tumasahi 3. So it mentions it 3 times. So one pasuk says the word zav twice. That one time says and it calls it tummy. That one says 3 times it calls it tummy. So haketzad shtaim latuma l'shlesh the carbon. So there's 2 different lachas there. One is if he only. I'm sorry. No, it doesn't say he brings his carbon there. So one tells us that if he's 2, he's tamei, means he's regular tamei, and 3 means he's tamei plus the carbon. Carbon and shlosh the carbon of tuma. Maybe it means like this: if it's 2 times, then he's tamei, he doesn't make carbon. If it's 3 times, then he's to make a carbon, but he's not tamei. So the Gemara says, "Wait, Amarta actually rosh shlosh rosh time." Once he sees 2, you're saying he's tamei. Then all of a sudden he sees the 3rd time, and now he's making carbon, but he's not tamei anymore, right? That doesn't make sense, right? You don't lose your tuma just because you saw your ziva 3rd time, right? That doesn't make any logical sense, right? So therefore, he has to build on it. So maybe the Eimer Shtaim the carbon of tuma and Shlosh Shav Latuma. Maybe it means like this: if he sees it 2 times, he has to bring a carbon, and 3 times, but he's not tummy, and 3 times he has to bring a carbon and he's tummy. So it says no, you can't think that. Why? The Tani we're going to write. We have another source. Here comes it says V'chiper alav hakohen lifnei Hashem mizovo. It says V'chiper alav hakohen, right? And he atones for him with his carbon lifnei Hashem mizovo. Mikta zavin miving carbon, what makes it zav imivian carbon? It says mizovo, right, from a ziva. Now, as not everybody brings it, right? So you see over here that it says some zavin bring carbon and others don't. Okay, it's that. How so? Rush, lush, maybe carbon. If he sees it 3, if he has 3 sightings, then he brings a carbon. Shtayim, but he only sees twice. Eno maybe. Oh, eno, ella. Or maybe he can say this. Rabbeis, maybe if he sees twice and it brings a carbon. Rush, lush, maybe. But if he sees 3 times, then he wouldn't go ahead and bring a carbon. So the Gemara says, wait, Amarta, that doesn't make sense. Once again, Achla, Rush, lush. Once you're chayv for seeing 3 times, you should be chayv carbon. Rush time, yeah, right. Then he sees. So if he sees 2, right, then all of a sudden, but he sees a 3rd, then he wouldn't have to. It doesn't make sense. So the Gemara says. Right, so he says, "Actually, rush time." So therefore, you're going to be chayv from 2. You can't say 3 that he's patur from a carbon if by 2 he was. Now, so it comes out that so everyone we have the both sources that teach us that if he sees 2 times, he's tamei for shiva, but he doesn't bring a carbon. If he's tamei 3 times, he's tamei shiva for 7 days, and also brings a carbon. V'itzrich the Rabbi Simai v'itzrich
whether he sees
2 or 3, he's tamei.
2 or 3,
he's tamei for 7 days.
Yes.
Correct. Now, the Yitzchak, we need the source of Rabbi Simai, who counted the words of the psukim, right? And the Itzich Mizovo, and also the Drasha Mizovo, that only some people bring korban. Dimi, the Rabbi Simai, if it was Rabbi Simai, have a mina kikushan. We would have our kasha before that says maybe maybe it always brings a korban. We just limit the amount of tuma. So it comes to teach us that no, that says mizovo. Some people bring korban, not everybody. Therefore, 2 does not bring, but 3 brings the korban. And Kamash Malan mizovo. Therefore, it says mizovo. Be mizovo. And if it just we learn from the Joshua mizovo lo yadina kamavrios, I would not know how much. So Kamash Malan. Therefore, it teaches us Rabbi Simai, who counts that 2 times. It says vitame, meaning if he sees 2 times, then he's tummy for 7 days, and the other one is 3 times, also tummy for 7 days, but he also brings the korban. Now, the hash the amarta mizovo ladrasha. So now that we have the word mizovo ladrasha, so there's another time where it says mizovo, right? We just started the word mizovo. The pasuk says over there in Vayikra Tes Vav Yagimel, it says V'chi Yitar Hazav Mizovo. Right? So my darshan, what do you darshan over there? Hahumi boy, they use it for something else. It says V'chi Yitar Hazav Mizovo. It says he'll become Tor the Zav when he stops from his Ziva. It says Mizovo below Mizovo v'niga. And now, once he stops his Ziva, then he starts in 7 days, and not after he stops both his ziva and his tzaras. Right? Let's say this guy had both tzaras and zav. Right? He's a big mess. Right? Right? Yeah. So he has. So maybe you think that he can't start counting his 7 days of tahara until he finishes both. No, you can still have your tzaras, but once your ziva stops, then you can start your 7 days. Yeah. So he says the whole thing with birds, and yeah. So he says it says only from his zova he has to stop then to count 7 days. Mizova the seeper, and then only from there he starts to count. Then it says mizova the seeper from his ziva, and he counts. Limed al zav bal shtei rios shetoin sfira shiva. Right, the teacher we learn over there that a person who has 2 rios that he has to count 7 days. I valo dinu. I understand, but it's not logical. Well, if we already know that he's Matame Mishkav Moshav, that in other words, that if he sits, let's say, like we mentioned, Mishkav Moshav, the classic case is he sits on 10 mattresses, and not only the one he's sitting on becomes an avatum, but even the one all the way at the bottom, something which supports his weight, right? That all becomes avatuma Mishkav Moshav. So it's obvious if he's Matame to the level of Mishkav Moshav. Is it not obvious that he has to count 7 days? So what do you need a pasuk for that? So more answers. Turn the page. Shomer Yom Keneged Yom Tachiach. That is Shomer Yom Keneged Yom Tachiach, right? So we have a case by a woman during her 11 days. So after she's a nida, then there's 11 days of ziva over there that she can't see 3 times in a row. And then or else she comes a zava gedola. But if she's 11 days, yeah. 11 days. Then 11 days.
No, after she stops seeing, then she has to count Shavanakim.
She's a zav.
But usually it's 4 days first.
The 11 days.
No, the 11 days, right, between ziva.
The 11 days between
Oh,
yeah.
So it's
4 days.
4 days with Ziva, and then 7 days.
No, but this is before. This is not the way we count nowadays, right? This is when they over there between by Shomer Yom Keneged Yom over there is referring to when there's Zava Gedola, right?
During the 11 days.
During the 11 days, and she sees 3, right? So over there she sees 2 times. She's called a Shomer Yom Keneged Yom, right? So if she sees 1 or 2 times, then she just has to count for that period the next day to make sure there's not 3 days in a row. Right? If there's not 3 days in a row, then she does not become a Zava Gedola. So over there, she's the Shomer's Yom Keneged Yom Tachiach, Shematami Mishkav Moshe, that she has the level of Mishkav Moshe. Now, if she goes ahead and touches something, she's a Zavakatana, and it would go ahead and be Matame, all the mattresses. However, Be'ena Toena's Shiva, but she doesn't have to count 7 days. So you see, there is a case. Just because you're Matame Mishkav Moshe, it does not necessarily mean that you count 7 days. So you could ask this. So over here, you can say, in this case, maybe you wouldn't have to go ahead and count 7 days. So therefore, it teaches you mizovo. Therefore, it says mizovo that that you are tummy for 7 days. The saver makes us zovo, right? So over there, it says mizovo makes us says mizovo v'saver. v'siper or v'safar. So it's from a ziva you count. So because zova v'safar. So li made al zav al shtei rios shito and sfira shiva. So we see over there that certain types of zivas, i.e., somebody who saw 2 times, he has to go ahead and count because he was a bal shtei rios and he requires sfiras shiva.
And he is the Tamei
Mishkav Moshe. Right,
during those 7 days.
Yes, yeah. Now, why this case when mizovo, in terms of when it comes to counting, we include about shterios? But the other case of mizovo, when it comes to the korban, we said might over there, we says he doesn't have to go ahead. Mizovo means only people with 3 sightings have to bring a korban, but a person with 2 sightings does not bring a korban. So one is marbe, one is might. What's the reason? If we're talking about the case of a person with bal shterios, he doesn't have to count 7. Lishra kamine. Let the pasuk not say anything. I know he doesn't have to go ahead and count, right? You don't. Why do you have to exclude him for that? Why would you have thought it in the first place? So, and if you want to say, oh, maybe I can learn from a case of from Shemeres Yom Keneged Yom, right? Shemeres Yom Tochiach. They would prove the other way that you could be completely tamei, right? But not required to count 7. So therefore, we have to go ahead and include to count 7. Maybe we can say, no, maybe we need the word mizova to teach us that only when he stops from a ziva, then he gets our counting. He doesn't have to also wait until his tsaras is over. Let's just say the pasuk said v'chi hazab. What is mizovo lamali? Why say mizovo? So li made al zav bal shtei rios shetoin sfira shiva. So teach you there mizovo to teach you that the one who is zav who saw 2 rios, he is chayiv to go ahead and count 7 days. Fine. So therefore, it comes out that, as we said earlier, that one a zav who saw 2 times, so he is tamei for 7 days. He has to wait 7 days to be clean to go to the mikvah, and he's tamei mishkav moshev the whole time. And if it's 3 rios, it's the same type of tuma. Just he has to bring a korban at the end of the on the 8th day. Fine. Nine Mishnah. Mishnah says. The last mission that we'll do today, we'll just get to the bottom. It's Hashem. Ein bein mitzara musgar lemitzara muchlat ela priya uprima. There is no difference between a mitzara musgar. Now, mitzara musgar is basically a mitzara. He shows signs of tsaras in terms of in the skin, right in the hair. The hairs aren't all white, whatever the simanim are, but it's not a decisive a tsaras, leprosy. So he goes into quarantine, breaks quarantine, goes off, he's separated for 7 days. So that's a Matzara Muskar. That's
what's not typical?
What do you mean?
Sounds like typical Matzara.
No. If the one, let's say he
goes to the cone,
he doesn't have the complete signs. In other words, if everything is not white or like all the hairs attached to it are not white. Right. So he's right. It's basically a suffix. So he's in a holding pattern for 7 days. So that's called a Matzara Musgar. So there is no difference between one who is a Musgar with one who is Muchlat. Muchlat is someone who is definitely have tsaras, right? He comes back and all of the signs worsen and now he's a Muchlat. Ella Priya Prima. Except for one who is Muchlat, right? He has to go ahead and his clothing is torn and his hair is grown out. So that is what a muchlat does, but not a quarantine person, right? Not a suffix, right? Almost like you said, like a suffix and a vada, right? And ein bein Torah mitoich hasger l'Torah mitoich hachlet. There's also no difference between the one who becomes Torah. In other words, he was in the quarantine 7 days, and turns out it was nothing, versus one who had saras. Now he's done mitoich hachlet. Except for the shaving his head, and also the bringing of the tziporim of the birds, right? Those are part of the process. The tahara process at the end of the tzaras, but only when it comes to tzaras muchlat or mitzvah muchlat, and versus a mitzvah musgar.
That doesn't make. I mean, like what's the chiddush? Like if you're not mitzvah, you don't do anything. If you do, you do.
No, and because the Torah does identify both of them as mitzvah, right? He goes off for 7 days as a mitzvah. He's sent out of the machna. Right, but he's sent out of the machna. So you might think that if you're sent out of the machna, there's types of tahara process. Maybe you also have to bring the birds, the whole process, which is tahara. So it says no. So Gemara says, when it comes to sending outside of the machna, tuma, and in terms of the level of tuma, mayor, because they're also matame the same way, right? They're also matame items the same way. If one touches, yeah. So halin
retro.
So we'll soon see. So halin shiluach v'tuma zev shavim. Both of them are the same. So Manahani Mili, from where do we know this from? That the prima only applies to the Masara Mukhlat and not the Musgar. So the Tani Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak Kamei de Rav Huna, the pasuk says, V'taharo hakohen mispachas hu v'chipes begadav v'taher. It says over there that the Kohen will say his mispachas is tahar. He'll wash his clothes with the mechibes begadav, right? And it says v'taher, right? V'taher, and what does v'taher mean? Tar me priyo prima demi kara. In other words, he was tar from the beginning. In other words, it turns out that he doesn't need it. Not that he becomes tar now. He was tar the whole time. All right. This is the case of the one who's in quarantine. He was tar the whole time.
So that's like a musgar, right?
Only the musgar. Right. The musgar is the tar, not vayitaher. It becomes tar now. The tar. He was already tar the whole time. We're saying he was tar the whole time. So I'm going to Rava Elamiata. Wait a second. So the word vitaher means retroactive, right? Vitaher. So Gabi is of the chsiv, the chibes begada vitaher. It says he goes and he washes clothes. He goes and he's taiva vitaher. He goes tar. So also my v'tayr mini karika. Well, you're going to say over there that the zav he was never a zav, right? Everything was tar. Ela tar hashtam mitame klicheres be'eset. Rather over there it comes to teach you that when it comes tar now, it means to become mitame a klicheres be'eset. In other words, there's a hesed is basically if you move an object, even if you don't touch it, right? Classic example is like a seesaw, right? Mm-hmm. Or you sit on it, and by sitting here and there's something at the other end, I cause it to move. Right? So I'm matame because I'm causing it to move, even though I never touched it or I never made contact with it, right? But I'm causing it to move, right? So therefore, and I'm tame, so therefore I would cause that to become tame. So he says, so therefore now the tire from talking about making something, so afagav the other chazi, then even though later on he becomes a zav, lo metame la'afreya. It's not metame l'mafreya. It's only mekana la'ba when it comes to that. So too in our case, hachanami, right? When it comes to the metzora, tar hashta metame l'mafreya. We'll say that only means now and in the future that it's as if I entered a place right during that time that would be that would have been from before, but now in the future it's telling me that if I would enter a space that would be tar. So once again, this is not a good proof to say that he never required. In other words, he was never tamei. We do find you to come tamei, right? We only find that it would say that anything that I entered from earlier would have been tamei. So I was tamei during those 7 days. So once again, where is the proof that it does not need priya prima?
Of the sape,
yes,
those things that he.
So they would be tamei during that time. So I was tamei during that time. According to this proof, right? V'taher, we can't darshan the word v'taher because of zav, because we don't find the concept from zav that retroactively it goes back. It just mekan laba when it comes to acid. So it's over here. It comes to mekan laba in terms of bia, right? In terms of entering into the into a room, right? We'll make everything tummy. So elam arav mehachla, new source. It says vatzarua asher bo hanega. They're talking about over there. Who has to tear their clothes? Who has to let their hair grow out? It says, "Vatsarua shebo hanega misha tzaras lebegufo." Someone who has tzaras because of his goof, right? That's why he's tummy because of his goof. He's the type of person who is tummy. Yatzazesh in tzaras lebegufo elabiyam, right? That would exclude somebody who he doesn't have to go ahead and tear his clothes or that because he's not tummy because of his body. He's tummy because of the amount of days. He has 7 days to count. So therefore, such a person, someone who he's telling me because he has to count 7 days, that person that person does not have to go ahead and tear his clothes and let his hair grow. And Emily by Elamiata says, "Call you may Asher Negapo Yitame all the days of the year." He has this nega. Yitame over there. We learn out. You should send him outside the machna. So it sounds like over there. Mi shitzaras tuluya begufa. Who detan shliach? Vein shitzaras tuluya begufa. Until shliach, it sounds like whoever has tzaras because of his body. Now is a muchlat, not a muskar. He's the one who sent out. But somebody who does not have tzaras because of his body, rather he used to count days. He's not sent outside the machna. And if you can say that's the case, well, we learned in our Mishnah, prima. The only difference is between the growing the hair out and tearing the clothing. But however, when it comes to sending him out, or when they enter a room, they make everything tamei, they're both equal. So we know they're sent out. So how do you darshan in the pasuk? Sarmalei, you may, kol you may. The rabbis mitzvah muskal l'shilof. It says over there, you may. It could have said you may, but it says call you may all the days. So now it's somebody who has any days, even 7 days of just counting because he's musgar. Such a person is sent out. My time alone. If that's the case, maybe include him also. Just like he sent out, so too he also has to bring the birds at the end and shave his head at the end. Right? The difference between the two is the shaving and the birds. But if we want to darshan the word kol yamei, maybe the person who's even musgar should also be included in the tahara process of shaving and bringing the bird offerings. So Amar Kar, the pasuk says, "V'yotza kohen el mechutz l'ma'achana v'hinei nirpa nega tzaras." It says the kohen goes to the mechutz l'ma'achana and behold, it was healed. Mi shetzarasa tluya b'refuah. Who is the one who brings the birds? Only someone whose tzaras was healed. Except for the other person, his tzaras wasn't healed. He never had it. So therefore, such a person doesn't have to go ahead and bring any type of bird offerings or go ahead and have to go ahead and shave his head. Who's just muskar, right? Sorry, we'll stop here. Everybody. Everyone have a wonderful day.